Aye, let's get you up to speed since you've got the attention span o' a flea. Last time, Kevin and Lance, two eejits with na sense, wandered into a magic cave and found themselves face to face with McGinnis McBagginnies, a wizard who should have known better than to trust these clowns. He sent them off on a deadly quest to fetch 7 rare ingredients for his almighty potion. First stop, the Solar Ember Blossoms, hiding in the heart of the scorching fields of Firelight. Now, you'd think even these two fools would have backed off when they learned a giant feathery firehawk was guarding the blossoms, but nope. Kevin and Lance, with their usual level of wisdom, none, plunged headfirst into the heat, where they had to face down a beast made of flame and fury. So buckle in, you numpty. Things are about to get hot. Kevin and Lance, freshly armed with talismans they barely understood, trekked through the scorching heat, sweat drippings doing their Egypt faces. The fields of Firelight were nae place for fools, but here they were, smack in the middle of it, like 2 lobsters boiling in a pot. "Are you sure we're going the right way?" Lance asked, his hair already starting to frizzle like burnt toast. "Aye, stop whining, you knob," Kevin snapped, checking the magic map. The Solar Ember Blossoms are dead ahead. The ground beneath their feet sizzled with heat, the air shimmering like it was made of fire. The sun blazed high above, beating down on them like a relentless tyrant. This wasn't just heat. This was the sun at its most brutal, test of strength and will. The very energy of the sun pulsed through the land, demanding courage, strength, and well, these two clowns had no clue. "There," Kevin pointed, his eyes narrowing against the blinding light. In the distance, they could see it, glowing like molten gold in the middle of a burning field, the Solar Ember Blossoms. They shimmered with the very essence of the sun, bright enough to make you blind if you stared too long. Beautiful, aye, but deadly as hell. Before they could take a step closer, a screech pierced the air, louder than a banshee with a megaphone. Lance jumped so high, you'd think he'd try to take off. "The Firehawk," Kevin muttered, barely hiding the tremble in his voice. "McGinnis said it guards the flowers. Aye, he also said it'd roast us like a couple of chickens if we're nae careful," Lance added, trying to peer into the sky, but the sun blinded him with its relentless glare. Then they saw it, a massive shadow sweeping across the sky, wings spread wide, flames sparking off its feathers, the Firehawk. It circled above like death on a wing, looking for a reason to dive bomb them straight to his hell. Kevin, ever the brilliant tactician, and by brilliant I mean thicker than a lid block, grabbed a rock and chucked it at the creature. "What the feck are you doing, you dafty?" Lance screeched, ducking behind a boulder. "That thing's made of fire. A rock's nae gonna do shite." Sure enough, the Firehawk let out a furious screech, and fireballs began to rain down from the sky like a fiery pissing contest. Kevin and Lance scrambled for cover, ducking and dodging like their arses were on fire, which they nearly were. The sun above beat down harder, the very air humming with its energy. The lesson of the sun was clear. This was a place for those who could withstand the heat, literally and figuratively. Courage and power radiated from every inch of this place, and only the strong would survive. "We need a plan," Lance gasped, sweat in buckets. "Aye," Kevin agreed, though his face showed nae sign of a plan emerging from that thick skull of his. "The map. It said strength and courage would get us through. We need to face it head on." "Face it? You've lost your bloody mind," Lance shouted, his voice cracking with panic. "It's a hawk made of fire." But Kevin was nae listening. He looked down at his fox talisman, remembering what McGinnis had said. Confusion and fear cloud the mind. When lost, the fox shows the way. Now he gripped the talisman tight and then shouted at the top of his lungs, "Oi, you big feathery bastard!" The Firehawk swooped lower, eyes like burning coals locking onto him. Lance, hiding like a coward, muttered, "This is it, he's finally gone full Egypt." Kevin stepped out from behind the rock, arms wide, challenging the creature. The Firehawk's wings stretched wide as it plummeted to earth, flames bursting from its tail feathers. Lance, terrified, peeked out to witness the inevitable roasting of his mate. But just as the Firehawk's talons were about to strike, Kevin pulled the raven talisman from his pocket. He crushed it in his fist, and wi a roar, the magic within burst to life. A massive black raven appeared, swooping down fae the heavens like a shadow cutting through the light. The Firehawk shrieked, caught off guard, and collided with the raven in a burst of sparks and feathers. The two birds fought in a whirl of flame and shadow, giving Kevin and Lance the opening they needed. "Now, grab the bloody flowers," Kevin shouted, dashing forward like a man possessed. Lance, though shaken, followed suit, hurtling toward the Solar Ember Blossoms as the two giant birds continued their deadly dance above. The ground burned beneath their feet, but they pressed on, driven by some insane mixture of panic and adrenaline. Kevin reached out, grasping the golden petals of the first blossom, his hand burning from the sheer heat. Lance followed, grabbing the rest, their faces twisted in a mix of triumph and pain as the fire singed their skin. Just as they ripped the last blossom frae the ground, the Firehawk screeched in fury, having finally broken free of the raven. The creature's eyes locked back on Kevin and Lance, fury radiating from its very core. But the sun had taught its lesson. Only those with courage could survive its domain. Kevin, now fueled with the power of his talisman, raised it high. The Firehawk hesitated, its fiery body flaring with rage, but it backed off, respecting the strength of the talisman's magic. "We did it," Lance gasped, clinging to the blossoms like they were his first pint of the night. Kevin grinned, wiping sweat and soot from his brow. "Aye, but it's nae over yet. We've got to get out of here before it changes its mind." The Firehawk screeched one last time, its wings bursting into flames as it soared back up into the sky, guarding its domain once more. The two eejits, blistered and barely standing, scrambled out of the fiery fields, clutching their hard-won Solar Ember Blossoms. But as they caught their breath, McGinnis's words echoed in their minds. The next task loomed ominously ahead, the Silver Mire and the Moonvine roots, where sorrow and loss awaited. And if they thought the sun's challenge was tough, they were about to learn the cold, cruel truth of the moon. "Ah, if the sun's anything to go by," Kevin muttered, "we're properly fecked." Lance sighed, already imagining the shite they were about to face. "Aye, but if we survive this, we'll be legends." "Or corpses," Kevin added. And with that, they limped off to their next doom, nae closer to being legends, but certainly closer to getting their arses kicked once again. Ye survived another tale of Kevin and Lance's idiocy, did you? Well, good for you, you've got thicker skin than I thought. But if you think that's the end, you're dafter than they are. There's mere madness to come, and you ken it's only gonna get worse. Next stop, the haunted Silver Mire, where they'll probably shite themselves trying to fetch those Moonvine roots. Now, do yourself a favour and hit that like button. Go on, gie it a smack like you would to your mate when he's talking shite. And don't be a dafty, subscribe. You'll nae want to miss the next chapter of these clowns nearly getting themselves killed. Stick around, laugh your arse off, and let's see if they make it out alive. Sláinte, you ball bags.